again here for Yap Break Radio, hosted by me, Who This, at Who This Is One, of course, where you can find more as far as what I'm doing here live first. Yap Break Radio, always first live here on YouTube, vertical shorts, or whatever the shortened version, no pun intended, version that title may be. I haven't figured it out yet. I promise by the next time I do this, I will figure that out. Just to make it more convenient. Where the fuck is that background I use for Yap Break Radio? To let you know, we mean serious business here. We are conducting business and we're about to make it business, never personal, of course. But now, of course, Yap Break Radio, I'm back. Who this is one, at Who This Is One, of course, the link for the channel here if you haven't yet. If you haven't yet, subscribe. I don't know, I got briefly distracted. Someone was like pounding on the downstairs door. I live in a building, so there's layers, there's doors between reaching me directly and me being directly outside like that. So I don't know what that was about right now. Maybe it was just a FedEx guy or Amazon or something like that. But who knows? Point being, back to it, right? So at This Is One, to reach me on the socials, TikTok, Instagram, all that shit, even though it seems like not Instagram. Well, Instagram's been fucking dead for me as far as like the algorithm and shit. What was I gonna say? I meant to say TikTok. TikTok is the one apparently that people are trying to flee from based off the ownership now of TikTok. We're not here to get into that really in detail, but as far as I know, people are flocking and fleeing from TikTok. And there's apparently a new one called, what is it, Upscrolled or something like that, that seems promising, even though it's fairly new. I don't know how exactly brand new it is, but it seems promising. It's like, it'll give you a chance to grow. It'll give you a chance to actually have a reach. It's like virgin territory, basically. So, yeah, let's see what happens over there. If anything, goes down as it should, hopefully over there, as far as like, meeting new people, getting into people's ears, getting in front of people's eyes so they can consume the content, the product, and all that. Let me just pin this message here. So, yeah, right there. There we go. All right. That way anybody who chimes in, can see what we're talking about today on Yap Break Radio. So, again, I am I'm the host of this whole thing right here. It's Tuesday. It's a day after, day later than what I would have normally gone live with, and it's a day before the next time I'm supposed to go live. So I'm gonna see if I'll be able to go live tomorrow at my usually scheduled time, 3:30. If not, probably earlier, just like today. Maybe even earlier than today per se. But let's see how it plays out. As far as, let's see, before we get into today's thing, which is Tracy Morgan, a clip of him, what was it, from over the weekend, going viral outside of a Knicks game, how he handled his bully is now very divisive amongst people that have viewed the clip. And, some are leaning more in towards, oh, people of a certain color just don't get it. Those that can identify with Tracy more on that scale are more like, well, of course, how do you not treat a bully, especially one from your childhood that remembers you and who you are based off your fame and what you've acquired over time and shit. How do you not treat them bad if they treated you bad from like very early on before you were anybody like that? It's really divided. It's as far as like down the middle, maybe not so much down the middle, but I can see like where I land and where I stand on that whole point myself. Based off past experience with bullies, everybody was bullied at some point. Everybody's still bullied today. The only thing with bullying now is that there's a lot more that have the liberty of being able to hide behind a keyboard, an IP, say some really fucked up things, and have no immediate repercussions of it unless it's like really like, racist, sexist, disgusting, etc., etc. But bullying's always been a thing. However, bullying now is taken much more seriously, maybe a little bit too seriously, depending on, the internet shit. That's a whole different story. That's a whole different can of worms that's, always popped open every day and handled, probably as worse as it can be, or not taken as seriously as it should be. But at least IRL bullying is still a thing. I mean, again, I'm old enough, and Tracy Morgan is also plenty old enough to know bullying was a thing, and it was probably harsher. Well, at least it was physical, is what I meant to say. Yeah, bullying used to be a lot more physical, hands-on, direct. As far as old as I am, as old as Tracy Morgan is, and as old as a lot of you out there are, to remember you had a bully. That bully was almost exclusive, let's say, your grade, your class, maybe not so much your school. There were maybe a couple of bullies spread out and such, right? But at least you would know to identify said bully. The bully was known, and you knew to stay away as best you could from the bully to not get bullied. But then the bully would also know who you were, so they kind of knew your schedule. They knew what time to go to lunch, if you got lunch money, whatever, whatever. So it was like direct one-on-one bullying, but then also they had like a Rolodex of who the bully, basically, right? In the comments, Abel Roses 3205, hi, saying hello back, as well as to Bishop McLeod 4098, saying hello back. And thank you for saying hello in the comments and asking me to say hello back. Hello, basically. So, bullying, right? I guess we could jump into, because what's really bullying me and a lot of us out here in the Northeast right now, New York and the tri-state area, and what is it? They said down to even New Mexico, is this fucking snow, this cold front. And, there's bullying on that end from Mother Nature. What else is new? Global warming. That's bullying all of us as a collective right now. Going through it with the snow, with the shoveling of the snow, throwing your back out because of shoveling snow. The chiropractors racking up the list of patients and the claims they get to file either to their insurance or the invoices that will be sent sooner or later to your inbox directly so that you can put it on a credit card and pay said chiropractor for fixing your back because of, guess what, the snow. So then, sciatica, that bullies me directly since I deal with that. But I've been able to get it under control, thank God. So shout out to anybody out there who deals with sciatica, who knows about dealing with sciatica in general on a daily basis. It's manageable, it takes time, but once you learn the tricks and fine tune around it, then it doesn't become such a big deal anymore. But it's there. It likes to show its face. It likes to, just rub it in when it feels the need to. So just a quick word of advice to prevent it. Don't sit on the toilet too long. Don't stand up still too long. And don't lay on your stomach. And you should be good otherwise all around. Or add some turmeric to your diet, to your meat. I add turmeric to my meat. Pause. And just about every chance I get, even like my coffee, sometimes I'll put a little dusting of turmeric and cinnamon for the flavor, but really because turmeric helps with anti-inflammation, so what really tends to trigger the sciatic nerve per se. Pronounced McLeod? Forgive me, I'm not able to decipher what you mean by Mucloud. McLeod? I don't even remember how. I think I said McLeod. So is it McLeod or, well, however you want me to pronounce it or however it is correct to pronounce it, just let me know. Just put in the comments too. That's totally fine. But back to bullying. Besides the Northeast now getting bullied by the snow, besides the Floridians, I have a friend who, born and raised in Queens just like me, moved to Florida, what is it now, 3 years ago? Now he's becoming a bully. As far as just being an absolute okay, he's gone beyond bully and just being a dick. He is sending me screenshots on a daily basis, and when he can, multiple times a day because he has nothing else to do with his fucking life apparently. He sends me screenshots of the daily temperature in Florida where he's at. I forget if he's in Miami or close enough to Miami, whatever the fuck it is. Send me screenshots. What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do about that? How am I going to react besides, okay, good for you, pal. You're out there in the sun. You got sand in your ass and your ears, tucked away in your nutsack for later usage, however you want to do it, to sprinkle into your fucking nut cheese. What am I supposed to do with screenshots of the temperature down in Florida where you are, where it's hot, like you've been known to be, hot-headed, hot-tempered and shit the whole time, going down there to just be miserable in Florida in the sun, baking at the same time. So what? The only thing he has to look forward to on the daily is swamp ass. And now he wants to rub it in with me like, oh yeah, ha ha ha. It's almost February and I got a swampy ass sitting in my car driving around all day in Florida while you're out there shoveling snow. So no, I'm not shoveling snow because thank God I live in an apartment where we got a landlord and that's his fucking job to do it. So if anybody's back is getting thrown out, if anybody's sciatica might be potentially getting triggered, I hope he doesn't have it. If anybody out there might have to see the chiropractor after shoveling all that snow, it's the goddamn landlord, as they always should be able to do so. And that's on them to do so if they got to worry about that shit. I got enough to fucking worry about with the rent, with the bills, with electricity rising over the fucking wintertime. I don't even know what's going on here. The second thing you said, I can't even remember right now, bro. I'm being so serious. I'm not doing it on purpose, but it's either McLeod. Well, you know, again, you can just leave it in the comments. Hopefully, I'll remember to run it back to the correct pronunciation of your name. But thank you again for saying hello and for commenting in it live. So, bullying too. Let's see what else is bullying us. Global warming. You know, the snow is intense right now, but then oddly enough, as the cold is to, at least one can assume the cold should last until, like, let's say March, April. The snow might even, you know, creep its way into fucking April, May. Who knows, right? Global warming's a thing. So now winter's all off schedule. It's either too short, it comes in real late, lingers for a little too long than it should. And then next thing you know, it's warm. Next thing you know, it's unbearably warm. We got the 1 week that we're all outside in hoodies, you know, zip up so we can just like take them off when it's like mid-afternoon. And then like when it comes time, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, we got to throw them back on to stay warm a little bit, whatever. And then the following week will be snow, sleet, draft coming from the Lake Erie right over here, or Canada just fucking farting in our direction hard enough where we feel it down here and shivering and shit. It's a little all over the place, but bullying. So back to, and now moving on to what we came to talk about here today. Tracy Morgan. I'm thinking of a hoagie right now. I think that's probably why I'm hungry. Tracy Morgan and his bully. A clip that was just shared over the weekend, apparently. I'm assuming right outside of Madison Square Garden after a Knicks game. Tracy Morgan and the likes around him are, you know, decked out in their Knicks gear, Knicks apparel. He's signing autographs for the fans, as we know already from, you know, the lawsuit he won against Target because of the accident he was involved in at the fault of Target and the truck driver that fell asleep that crashed into him. He fucked him up physically for a while. He looks like he's okay now, but more importantly, he got paid, and paid so much from Walmart that he's apparently got so much wealth now that is generational, meaning he could pass it down to not just his kids, but his grandkids, and everybody will be good. But so much so that hopefully he's gotten the surgeries needed, the physical therapy needed, whatever he's doing to his body to get himself right. Because I've always liked Tracy Morgan. I've always found him funny. Yeah, I've always been a Tracy Morgan fan, you know, from SNL, obviously, you know, Dominican Lou, the fucking landlord shit. I loved him on Howard Stern whenever he'd pop up on there. He was like so wild and crazy on that shit. And just in general, I always liked him, like his energy, you know, I'm Tracy Morgan and everything. Like one of the very few impressions I do anymore. Maybe one of these days I'll do like an episode just talking to Tracy Morgan, but not this one because it's more important we talk about the topic at hand and what he was directly dealing with versus just not so much making fun of Tracy Morgan, but just having fun at the expense of Tracy Morgan doing an impression of him. So over the weekend, it goes viral. This clip of him outside the Knicks game, you know, signing autographs, taking pictures. He seems to be a cool guy the whole time. You approach him correctly, he'll like, you know, just give you the time, make you feel special, make you feel like, you know, you're present and shit. And not so much obvious looking in terms of homeless, but definitely old and probably in need of some help. A guy approaches Tracy amongst the crowd, and without having to say more than 2 words, Tracy immediately locks eyes with him and recognizes him from the neighborhood. I think he grew up in Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. Where exactly, I don't know where, but recognized the guy immediately, and immediately engages with the guy because the guy called him, I think he said Willie or something like that. I forget what exactly, but he used some maybe nickname or neighborhood name he had for Tracy back when growing up that Tracy immediately remembered, saw his face, recognized him, and say, "Don't you fucking talk to me like I owe you shit." Or, give or take close enough to the words he actually used. But same energy regardless. Sets him straight immediately as far as, again, don't talk to me like I owe you something. And it's kind of hard to hear, but then you hear at some point basically like, yeah, I remember all that shit you were talking from, when I was growing up and shit. Somewhere in the comments, I think it said, oh, all the times you bullied me growing up, whatever. I think I heard more. I heard all that. I remember all that shit you were talking when I was growing up. And a lot of people immediately dissected in the comment section the vibes and the tone of the man, the homeless man, approaching Tracy Morgan for a handout, basically, implying either money, implying either maybe, I don't know, a burger or something to fucking eat, or like enough loose change to go buy himself a hot dog and a drink and a pretzel maybe by the nearby fucking hot dog cart. But the man was apparently a bully from his youth. They used to bully him. Now, as far as Tracy, and as far as I remember from Howard Stern and different things I've read about Tracy, he was bullied he was bullied as bullying was the thing and always was a thing, especially back when in a place like Brooklyn, of course. A Brooklyn bully is a different kind of bully because they probably won't kill you or come close to killing you or doing you any like close to the brink of murder or anything like that, but they'll make you feel like wanting to kill them for how much they like, solo you out amongst a whole group of kids for your lunch money. Or like, oh, I really like those Jordans. I like how they look, but I think they look better on me, so run them shits kind of thing. And most likely the bully had like his little cohorts, his sidekicks that would like team up with him. And then it's you versus like 4 or 5 goons, which you could probably take on your own, but then it's like 4 or 5 against 1. So then, it's a losing effort most of the time, every time. Oh, thanks for the sub, Bishop McLeod. Hopefully I got it right. McLeod, McLeod. I'm not doing it on purpose. But appreciate you for the sub. Thank you for that. I always appreciate the love. Point being, a Brooklyn bully, back in the day type of bully, again, was direct. They knew who you were. They probably knew your parents. They knew your schedule. They knew when you were here, when you weren't here. If you were out of school for whatever reason, sick, whatever. They wait for you to come back and probably get some bullying attacks on you. Okay, you came back, you're still sick, I'm gonna keep my distance maybe, but I like that shirt. I like your pencil. I like whatever the fuck you got on you, run it. It's been some days, come on over. It's time to pay up, basically, right? Now, the bullying is more online, while the physical bullying still exists, of course. We're not denying that. We're not downplaying that shit, unfortunately. But the bullying that is on the rise is the online bullying, which, has led to, unfortunately, so many kids, offing themselves because of the harassment online, which is really sad to hear about or read about every time it happens. Young kids, too. That's even worse. The younger they are, the really sadder it is that they even have to go through bullying like that, or they feel that bullying is something so overwhelmingly huge in their life that they have no one to talk to, let alone their parents or like a responsible adult, someone they can trust in. But even more heartbreaking about that, not to make that, not to make this all sad and shit, but it's even more heartbreaking when a kid is not even 10 years old and they know already how to off themselves, or they figure out or find out how to do it and end up doing it too. That's, all that aside, very tragic to see. Bishop, you're 8 years old. Okay, so, and you said your school doesn't have bullies. Okay, well, as long as you don't have bullies and you're not being bullied yourself. But if ever it does come up, because maybe now in your school you don't, but maybe when you get older, middle school, high school, it's kind of like inevitable. It's more typical at that age because, boys at a certain age are really confused and jerks and trying to figure out the body, how it works and everything too. So it might come up. If you ever do get bullied though, just make sure to talk to somebody about it. Don't not so much be a rat or be a tattletale, but more so like talk to somebody about it to see what you can do to rebuttal it, basically. And you're 8 years old. Okay, cool. So, uh, yeah, just be really careful out there, especially at a young age. They don't discriminate no more, the bullies, regardless of the age and, all that included. But back to the point. So the homeless guy approaches Tracy looking for a handout. Tracy basically tells him to fuck off. And quote, after the guy says, hey, I'm down on my luck. Hey, I got nothing going on. Hey, I need help. I'm homeless, boy. Uh, Tracy says back to him, quote, so what that got to do with me? I ain't did that as far as him being homeless. And I think it's the appropriate response because listen, again, I've had bullies too. I had a couple of bullies. I mean, I wasn't the biggest kid. I wasn't the smallest kid either growing up. But whenever I did have a bully or that came up, I I wouldn't say I bullied back, but I always fought back because I didn't want to put up with that shit because I was already poor. So if I had anything they wanted me to give them and or run their way, I was fighting tooth and nail to hang on to like my jacket. I was fighting tooth and nail to hang on to, a magazine I bought. Because I used to buy like when magazines were a thing back when, of course, when I buy a brand new issue of Nintendo Power or when I used to be younger into wrestling, a wrestling magazine or like sometimes a car magazine or something like of the shit I would like, I would fight. And I wouldn't always win. I wouldn't necessarily beat them up. That's me being honest, but at least I would fight them off enough where they get the point of like, okay, we're not going to bother with him because it's going to be too much effort. Let's go pick on someone smaller, weaker, more of a pussy, whatever the fuck else, right? I feel like in this case, the way that Tracy dismissed his bully, Tracy has no reason to lie, has nothing to make up about, oh, I've had all these bullies and in my head and they never really existed, but I'm just going to point this guy that might have recognized me from the neighborhood. I'm going to label him as a quote unquote bully and just fucking pick on him. No. If that guy did bully Tracy, and you can see in Tracy's face, he was cool with everybody, he was signing autographs, he was dapping people up, he was taking pictures and everything, just taking his sweet ass time, because he's so rich now, he's got no obligations as far as like, well, I gotta be home by a certain time to clock in for this shit or be on set for that. No, he's got so much money now, and God bless him that he does, that he can kind of do what he wants with his free time. So, of course, he's there in the crowd, in the midst of the people, signing autographs, taking pictures, showing love, making jokes, whatever. So you see the turn in his face as soon as he sees that guy, immediately recognizes him. Maybe not so much trauma or like, damn, he killed me one time almost, or he left me in the hospital and shit. I believe he has a sibling that has some sort of condition. I think, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've listened or found out more about Tracy like that, his life story. But I think he had to defend a sibling, a brother of his specifically, that had some sort of condition from the neighborhood kids and or bullies in that case. Maybe this guy was one of those making fun of said sibling. So especially something like that, that's something you're not going to forget. That's something you're going to remember as far as that person, their face, their demeanor, and everything. And if he's like me, which I'll forget people's names as soon as I meet them, but I'll remember their face forever. It'll be like tattooed in my head. And I'll even be able to recognize them like 20 something years later, even if I saw them 20 years ago. I don't see why anybody would say Tracy was wrong to do so. Again, especially if the guy was a bully, if the guy was an asshole, or especially doubling down on that energy, if he was one of those guys, one of those bullies that were making fun of him for having a brother that had some sort of condition, physically, mentally, whatever the case is, that's fucked up. Now, that's me assuming that guy might have been one of those because a bully could just be a bully for the sake of. They got nothing going on up here. They got, no one at home to hug them and tell them that they fucking mean something or they contribute anything to the world besides taking up space and air. Bullies are born out of fucking, people that really need something that they ain't getting at home or they're missing on the inside anyways. That's the truth. Because look at the online bullies. You make a comment on something, you post something, and someone immediately goes on there to troll you, bully you, whatever, say some bullshit, whatever. What happens most likely 8, 9 times out of 10? You click on their profile, you see the profile pic. They either got no profile pic, which is like, okay, immediately you get dismissed because you're pussy, so you're not worthy of a response or comment, nothing. Stupider is when they have a picture, and most likely it's them, they're balding, they can barely grow a beard, and I can relate, unfortunately, but, or even worse, they're the people you least expect to be commenting on that type of shit with that type of energy. They got like their whole family in the picture, they got them and their dog in the picture, or even worse, which is like even like more worthy of them getting roasted or getting torn apart because of in their bio they probably got some sort of Bible passage and or quote that they hold so dearly to their hearts, but yet what type of energy, what type of toxicity are they putting out there, aka a keyboard bully, right? I feel personally, again, since I've dealt with bullies before, and I've had to deal with them, grade school, middle school, high school, even college, actually. I remember there was the college one was weird because, again, you're like of age already, so it's like, it's not technically bullying, but I'd say more of a pushy weeds salesman, a street pharmacist, basically, as they call them, or they used to call them, or, before we had dispensaries everywhere too, and cannabis was like legal and shit. On campus, out loud, this white guy would go around in the baggiest possible of outfits, like the baggy hoodie, the baggy shirt, the baggy pants, even like sneakers that were too big for his feet, just for the sake of keeping it baggy, right? You go around, I got that, whatever the fuck he would say. I got that kush, I got that purple, whatever the fuck he would say. He'd say it out loud. He'd say it in your direction if you look like a potential customer. And I don't know if the proper etiquette or mannerisms to convey back would have been like just a head nod, like, nah, or I'm good kind of thing. Anytime I see them come around and he'd say that, I just no sell it. As in, I'd keep looking at, whatever book I was reading. I don't know if I had a phone at that time. Maybe I did. I don't know. I'm talking about like 2005, 2004 shit. But I would ignore him. I just no sell it. And at some point, because he always kept the same route, he always walked the same hallways, apparently. He was too lazy to go from this building to that building over there to see if maybe he had more potential customers that were waiting to hear him bark down the hallway. I got that kush, I got that perp, whatever. No, he'd make the same rounds in the same hallways. So whenever he'd see me after a certain point, he'd be like, hey, I said I got that kush, I got that perp, I got whatever the fuck else he would say. And I just ignore him every time. After a certain point, he would directly approach me and be like, you heard? Da 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 da, I got that whatever the fuck. And at some point, eventually, I had to be like, I'm good. I don't do any of that shit. It's like, oh, you ain't trying to be down, whatever, you're trying to hold me back. Or like, no, I'm like, I just don't do, I'm a broke college kid. The only thing you're doing smarter than me probably is selling, openly offering and selling weed on campus so you can make some money, hopefully to put back into your textbooks or pay back some some portion of your tuition if you're not one of those freeloader fucks that get a check every quarter and basically come to school for free to do nothing but hang out and be stupid, right? I'm out here trying to fucking work a part-time job, pay my books, pay my tuitions because I couldn't fucking get whatever you call it, like assistance or whatever the fuck you call it, like financial aid. If I couldn't qualify for financial aid, right? Because my taxes back then were fucked. Basically, my father, who had left when I was like 10 or 11, filed me as a dependent of his when he left without telling me or my mother. So she would never get nothing back for her taxes. And then when it came time for me to go to college, community college, I did get my associates at least, a 2-year degree. No shout out to all my 2-year degrees out there. They saw that and said immediately, oh, we need a copy of your dad's taxes. I'm like, I haven't seen my father in like, what, 8-something years almost? How am I going to do that? It's like, oh, well, you need to get a hold of it. It's like, I can't do that because I don't know where the guy is. He disappeared on me and shit. Like, if you know where I can find him, maybe I can go off of that shit and ask him at least. But I don't know shit. So it's like, okay, well, sorry. Unless you get a hold of that, you get no financial aid, basically. Not even help for books, nothing. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. Not even a free fucking t-shirt for enrolling into the fucking school of all things. So for those 2 years I went, well, I graduated in about one and that, just short of two. Because I really didn't want to have to pay 4 times in full. I think I ended up paying so, but I know I finished fairly early. I could have finished sooner had I passed, what was it? English 101 back in my first semester, that I only failed because the teacher was a fucking hater and obsessed with this, what was that book? I think Ragtime. He was obsessed with Ragtime, forced us to read it, was expecting us to fucking come back to him saying, that book changed my life. How could you? How could you hold this back from me for my 20 years of existence and expect me to not think this wasn't the magic formula to change my whole life around and shit? No one cared about the stupid book because it sucked as far as I remember. I can't even remember how long ago that was, that book. But whatever. It was, we had to read it because it was course material, so we had no choice, right? And then the same professor that came out of the closet to us like day 2 of the semester before harassing us with that fucking book saying, oh, by the way, guys, I'm gay. And waiting for everybody around to be like, gasp or be, short of breath and be like, oh my God, you're so brave. You're a gay professor in 2004. Wow. And you're open about it. Holy shit, you're a fucking hero. Forgetting that this is fucking Queens, New York. They've been around and no one cares either way about you being gay or not. Teach the fucking class. Make the class entertaining enough, like my other favorite professor, Dr. Luca. Rest in peace. Ever since he's passed. That guy was the best professor I ever had of my whole academic career. And thank God he was the first one I had on the very first day of the first semester. If I hadn't had him as my very first semester professor, or the very first person to say, oh, welcome class, good morning and shit, I would have probably dropped out that same day. But thank God it was him, Louis Luca, Dr. Louis Luca. Salutes to him and rest in peace always. He was a godsend as far as that's concerned. But back to bullying, right? I think, if anything, Tracy Morgan is absolutely correct in this case to dismiss the bully the way he did and tell him, quote, after the bully tells him, his old bully at least tells him, I'm homeless, boy, help me out, whatever. He's like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I ain't do that to you, because he didn't cause him to go homeless. That guy's whole life of being a bully and aspiring to nothing, to his potential, to his benefit, that led to him being homeless. If he is homeless right now, who knows? I mean, he looked old and he looked like shit, the guy. So I think we're just assuming he might be homeless. Who knows? Down his luck at least enough to be asking. Well, no, actually, the guy said himself, I'm homeless, boy. But probably lying. I mean, he looked down on his luck. He looked really fucking defeated in the face after he was told basically, fuck off. I didn't make you homeless. You did that to yourself, kind of thing. But yeah, he probably just said homeless to double down and really make him feel like absolutely guilty, to be like, all right, let me give you some cash or whatever. Nah. Because then again, also, who's carrying cash nowadays anymore too, right? I mean, there is the convenience of just debit cards and tapping here and Apple Watch and whatever the fuck else you got, where it's like cash is like a thing of the past almost, I think. I don't think I've withdrawn cash for almost like a couple of months now. No, the last time I had to withdraw cash was, surprisingly, I was at a cash-only pool hall where you shoot the billiards and shit. They only took cash, so I had to use their ATM there. And that's the last time recent memory, I had to like withdraw cash like that. So yeah, they bullied me basically into using their ATM, or otherwise I cannot use their establishment for the purpose of entertaining myself with knocking some balls around via a big old stick, right? That's the point of pool. That's the one sport or hobby I excel at. So you know what? I take pride in that shit. You want to face me one fucking day? I'll show you what it's like to lose to a fucking winner at pool. That's me. Who this? And of course, at Who This Is One is the tag for the channel here first live. The version you get right now live as I'm yapping away on Yap Break Radio. At Who This Is One here on the YouTube vertical shorts. You can watch it back later on a replay. You can watch it on your downtime. You could share it if you want to. You can sub like Bishop McLeod did, or McLeod. I can't remember. I'm not doing it on purpose. I swear to God. You could do that at Who This Is One, also on the socials, the Instagram, the TikTok for now. The Upscroll very soon. I'm going to be uploading more to that shit. X or Twitter, Threads as well. All that good shit. No Snapchat, because as I've said before in past lives and episodes as well, Snapchat got very naughty, even for me, of course. So yeah, no Snapchat, no none of that dirty stuff. I'm good on that, and you should be too. Got a brand new episode I just uploaded of my podcast called Fuck It on the channel right now. You can tune in with a very special guest, a rapper I've been meaning to get for a while on the program called Action Figure 973, straight from New Jersey. A very great, fun interview. Good times were had, some laughs too. Good guy, rapper, wrestling fan. Clever enough to incorporate the wrestling rhymes into his raps without seeming too much of a mark or a fan like that, but just good times were had. Got a couple more episodes going up this week too as well. Should be back on a weekly basis as far as uploads are concerned with the podcast. And don't forget again, please, at Who This Is One, to like, subscribe to the channel. Everything you got to do over here on YouTube, on the socials, wherever you choose to do it. As long as you use the tag, at Who This Is One. For me right here, to support me, to show me some love, I appreciate it. I'll catch you next time. 50-50 chance I'll be back on tomorrow, probably earlier in the day for the regularly scheduled day of Yap Break Radio. But let's see. I'll let you know if anything on the community post here on my channel at Who This Is One. If not, regardless, I'll be back here Friday without fail. Appreciate you. Catch you next time. Yep.